Okay, should be in a minute. Yeah, okay, so here we have it. Right, so how tires generate grip? It's going to be very simplistic. I'm not going to go into lots of depth, but I think that in that simple way we can also understand what is going on. So this is how a tire generates grip, okay? Which means that when you want to turn, okay, and you need to turn by 10 degrees, okay, you turn your steering wheel and uh, your wheels are turning, but you're not turning your steering wheel to turn your wheels by 10 degrees. You need to provoke some sliding on the wheels, lateral sliding, so that they can generate grip and turn the car. So if you have to do a turn of 10 degrees, you need to turn to about to about 20 degrees if you have a road tire. This is the curve that the tires generate, uh, and this is road tires. So let's say that, again, this is very simplistic. Let's say that you want to generate 1.1 Z, lateral Z. Okay, 1.1 lateral Z. Rod tire should slide, it has a peak to generate the maximum force. You can see it here, okay, here. This maximum force of 1.2 G, which is, it doesn't work like that, but let's say this for now. Uh, so it generates this kind of lateral force at around 9 degrees. This is more or less what a simple rod tire does. So you need to slide your tires to 9 degrees, okay, and then the car starts turning. If you go over this and you exceed this and you go to 10, 12, 15, you lose some grip. So it is important for the good drivers to remain as close to the peak of the lateral force or the longitudinal force that the tire can give, because this is where you have all the force. This is where you generate the maximum grip. If you go over that, then you're losing some grip. Now, on a street tire, you do not lose lots of grip. So even if you exceed this, so let's say that you have to turn like that. If you exceed this by 3 degrees, so you go like this, okay, you're losing, but you're not losing too much. So the car still turns. If you do that, so you can go back and forth from the peak, okay? So you can go back and forth. You go here and you can go here, okay? So when you go back and forth, you can do a movement like this and still go around the peak and still generate enough traction, and you can feel the traction and you can work with it. Okay, so what is going on now? So sorry, which means that this is the limit of play that you have. You see, the limit of play to stay close to the peak is more or less this ample. Okay, the whole thing is more or less this. It's quite a bit of a range that you have to play with. Okay, which means the car does something and you can still control it because you have time, and it permits you to do lots of movement and you can still controlling, and the whole thing comes back to you as feedback because you can see what it happens and you can still catch it, and you don't have any situations like, oh, what the fuck has happened, I just did that and I've lost the car. Okay, cool. So what happens with the slick tire? Right, this is a slick tire, and yet, as you can see for yourself, things are getting pretty difficult now. So the red graph is the slick tire. What does that mean? It means that the peak is much higher. So obviously it generates much more grip, right? Which means at the same turn you also go with a higher speed. So everything comes to you faster. But that's not the only thing. Not only it generates higher uh, grip, but the peak for the GT3 tires, by the way, is somewhere around 4 and 5 degrees. just 4 and 5 degrees to generate tons of lateral grip. Okay, uh, so to do the same turn at much higher speed, instead of doing that, you have to do this. You have to do this. Okay, it's half the situation on your steering wheel. And not only that, but uh, the amount of range you have to play with if you go a little bit over or under the peak is much shorter. You see it here. The range is really minimum, and I've made this to show you the minimum range. It's practically half than the one, even less than half than the one of the road tire, which means that in ACC with GT3 cars, when you are like that, and you are going a little bit over the limit, your play is just this. If you go and do something like that, where I've seen many people doing this, then you are so farther away of the peak of the tire that you don't feel anything anymore. Everything is flat because you're down here. You see, you're down here. You're down here, and nothing changes here. This is flat. So you have people saying, "Oh, but I'm driving ACC and I feel nothing at all. This is completely flat. It doesn't give me any feedback at all." It doesn't give you any feedback at all because you're already in the flat place of the grip curve. If you want to feel something, you need to stay close to the limit. So once you see and you feel the car, and you really need to do small movements, fast, many, but small movements. When you feel that, it doesn't make any sense at all to continue insisting. You have to go back and you have to play with your pedals. This is where the magic happens. So as I show you here, the range is so narrow, and not only is narrow, but the loose of the grip is much more important. See here, in the straight tires or the semi-slick tires, which are similar, or the old AC1 tires, right? In AC1 tires, we didn't have the peak at 4 degrees, you know, because we didn't have this kind of data. In AC1, the limit was at around 7-8 degrees, so it was still wider. So in ACC, we know from Pirelli that the limit is at about 4 to 5 degrees. And the range to keep to the limit is much narrower. And not only that, if you go over the limit, the loss of grip is much higher. So if you go over the limit and you're not able to regain control to tell the car, stay there where you are, you're going to lose so much grip that the car inevitably will go wide much faster or will spin around much faster. This is why some people that have issues of controlling this kind of cars they are complaining because I can't feel the car, I can't catch the slides, I can't do anything. The answer is you can, but you have to be much more precise, and you have to be much faster with your inputs. You have to wake up yourself and tell yourself that, okay, I'm here, I feel something going on, this is where I have to play. I have to play here. If you look on boards from the real drivers, you see them that they are moving the steering wheel, but they are moving it in a small range. They say they are like that. Yeah, I have to catch the car there. Because if you go there, this is the flatness. This is the flatness. You can see it here on the graph. There's nothing you can do about that. So if you stay here and you're like, the car doesn't steer anymore and I feel nothing. Yeah, you are overriding so much that you are now in the flatness, the flat planes, as we say. So this is something very important. Okay, right. Now that we know that, we can start analyzing what to do on a turn. And by analyzing what you can do on a turn, you can learn what to do on your car. Okay, because it is very important. It doesn't make any sense to start changing the setups of the car if you don't understand what the car is telling you. And to do so, this is my kind of technique. You might have others, but this is pretty much what everybody is doing also in reality. So what we do? Let's go back to this particular turn. It's almost a 90 degrees turn. It's very simple, no big deal here. We do that. Well, as you know, we have to do the most wide radius line as is possible for this turn. So I've made the racing line here. Okay, this is the racing line, let's say. It's true that depending on the turn, sometimes you have to go in a little bit earlier, sometimes you have to go out, turn in, turn out a little bit later. But let's say that it is completely geometric here. Let's not make the things very difficult. So I am okay. Let me right. So what I do is I'm going to separate my turn into four different sectors. Four different sectors. So the first one, of course, is the braking zone. And this red zone, you can see it here. Okay. This red line is the braking zone. You just have to position your car as wide as possible, brake as hard as possible, and with the GT3 cars, there is a good thing because you can just smash the brake pedal, right? The ABS will take care of everything for you. Those are modern cars, so you really have to go as hard as possible on the brake and let the ABS do its job. The only thing that you have to be careful is depending on the grip of the asphalt, you might need to play a little bit with the ABS level. So if the track is green, so it has not too much grip, then maybe you need something like ABS level 5 or 6. If the track is mm, very well rubbered, so many cars have gone through the track, then you can have something like ABS level 3. You can also use something like ABS level 2, but that makes turning a little bit more difficult. We will talk about that maybe later or in a different stream. But for now, let's assume that you have a whatever ABS level. You go into the braking zone. You have to be very careful where your brake mark is because driving, racing, driving fast is all about taking your marks, uh, having reference points. This is all about it. 80% of going fast is technique, and technique means finding reference points for everything. Means do I start my braking? Where do I turn in my steering wheel? Where do I start releasing my brake? Where do I apex? Where do I start to give acceleration? And where do I exit? You have to make reference points about everything. Good pilots even make reference points where they change gear in the straight line, because if they go a little bit earlier or a little bit later from their changing gear reference point, then they know that they had some issues on the last corner exit, or they were too good on the last corner exit, so they try to do it again the next time. So driving is all about reference points. You want to get better 80%, then we have another 10% of experience and another 10% of talent. Not everybody is the same, but 80% is take reference points, use them, be very precise about them, and you see that you will get better. Sorry about that. Right, so braking zone, as straight as possible. ABS foot down, ABS working, no problems. Now start the problems. First turn in. So as I told you, the tires give a certain grip. The grip is longitudinal, so you're braking, so you're asking all the possible grip you can have, when you're going longitudinal, and also lateral. Now the key here is um, tires cannot give you the maximum of both ways. You cannot have the maximum of longitudinal and the maximum of lateral. When you start asking something else, then something else must give in. So until now, until the red line, we were asking 100% of longitudinal uh, grip of the tires. Now in the orange line, we are starting to turn in. When you start to turn in, you have to start releasing slowly your braking pressure, because you are asking your tires not only longitudinal grip but also lateral grip. So lateral grip is going up. To do so, you have to release your braking pressure. In that place is where the aliens are very good at it. Very good at it. This is where they gain those valuable tenths of a second, okay, on each turn. And it is a hard situation. It takes lots of practice. It takes lots of things and good reference points. Now, with this car, with this kind of car, the GT3 cars, well, normally with normal cars, you would take this um, orange line up to the apex. All right, so you would brake, release the braking slowly, turn, turn, turn until you hit the apex. So you help also the car rotate a little bit, and then you go on the accelerator and exit the turn. With the GT3 cars and generally all the cars that are extremely sensitive in terms of aerodynamics, this is not always, something to do. And if you're not alien level people, I would advise you to do something different. I would advise you to turn in, all right, release the brake a little bit to help the car still load the front and turn in, but at some point around at the mid sector between turning in and the apex, you go into the coast zone, the yellow. So you release completely your foot from the braking and you go coasting. You don't touch the pedals anymore. And I know that everybody now is saying, oh, but what are you saying, Aris? I'm going to spin, the car will come around, or I'm going to go straight. No, you won't. No, you won't. This is the new era. This is aerodynamics in the play. If you release the brakes, the car will flatten, all right? The aerodynamics will go proper balance as you have them when you're going straight, and the car will stabilize. And we will show you this in a moment. So there are two things are going to happen. If the car spins, then you released way too abruptly with too much steering, and we will show this in a moment. If you go straight, then you arrive to the turn way too fast, way too fast. The correct thing is that you are turning in, you're releasing the brake, and you feel just a hint of understeer. You feel just almost going to make it, right? And usually what you're doing there is keep the pressure on the brakes to make the turn because you think you need less speed. This is when you feel that hint of understeer. This is where you release the brake completely, and you let your tires off the longitudinal grip, and they can give you the whole lateral grip, and by doing so you can make the turn. So this is what we're going to explain right now, the orange and the yellow sector. So let's go and do it. All right, so where are we? Let's go back and get our trusty Godzilla again. Are you enjoying it, guys, until now? Is it good for you? Let's get, where's the Nissan, there it is. Here we are. Okay. All right. So let's load. How is it, guys? Do you find it interesting? In a minute, we're gonna have some, questions and answers about it. All right. So I'll keep the setup safe, as we said. I won't change anything because I want just to focus on the driving. So let's go in and let's start. All right. Let's go in. Let's first put some heat on our tires, of course. So again, you're gonna need 1 lap or 2, depending on the circuit, depending on the car. Braking, releasing. You see how I released? Car releasing. You see, car completely stable. I don't have to do anything at all. Okay, let's brake again here very hard. So hard on the brakes. Oops. And releasing. You see, I was going way too wide and I still managed to catch the car even if the tires are still not up to hit. Let's do this again on the next turn, which is a very long left-hander. So I will brake and release. So brake, modulate, release, way. You see, I went wide, means I was way too fast. So if I went wide, I was way too fast. Let's try it again. Here, brake, and release. See? Completely stable. I don't have to do anything at all. The car doesn't spun on me. If I go slightly on the brakes, then I should be more careful, because this is where the car points in and the aerodynamics unbalance the whole car. This is something that the aliens can do and they're very good, but if you're not an alien, do as I do. In, release. Even here, the car is completely stable. Again, now we have also some temperature on our tires, so let's try this. Release. You see? The nose tucked in, so the nose goes in, but the car remains stable because the aerodynamics take care of everything. So again, braking, in, release, in. You see, I didn't move my steering wheel, but the car went in. Let's see what happens if I stay on the brakes. So, brake, 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 brake. Whoa, completely wide. You see that? Completely wide. I'll do the same on the next turn, down to this straight. So, I will keep braking. I will try to modulate, but I will keep braking. So, brake, 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 modulate. Okay, that was not bad. I managed to make the turn. Probably I've arrived way too slow. But I want to show you what happens when you release the brake without moving the steering wheel. So, you see? I have more steering. When I release the brake, I have more steering wheel. So let's see this again in a replay. I think there was a point where it was really very clear about it. Okay, so I think it goes around here. So let's go here slow in playback speed, something like that. And I want you to have a look at the steering wheel, and you will see that I remained with the same angle. I didn't try to force to get in. I just released a little bit the braking zone. So have a look down here on the braking zone, and you will see. So let's go back. We'll need some time. Okay, so that this whole thing hides. Okay, so you can see hide. Look here at the again. Come on, come on, come on. Go on. All right. Braking, steering, release the brakes, and the car goes in. You see how the car really slides in? Okay. So